Welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. 888-589-8840 is the number to call. Just want to close the loop on that story I mentioned at the end of the last segment. This is a story that appeared on Politico. They have since pulled it down. Now, Politico apparently pulled this story down because they realized this was bad for Senator Cochran. Now, what Politico wants Senator Thad Cochran back in office because he does not represent the kind of threat to the Washington establishment that Chris McDaniel represents. Chris McDaniel, hardcore Tea Partier, hardcore conservative, believes in the Constitution, believes in limited government, and is willing to go to Washington, D.C. and start doing something about it. Senator Cochran, on the other hand, is built a reputation for bringing money back to the state of Mississippi. He has more buildings named after him than any other member of Congress. So he's a big government conservative, and he's a big government Republican, I should say, big government Republican. So Politico and left-wing types, they want him to stay in D.C. because he is a part of the club. He's a part of the big government crowd that runs Washington, D.C. They want him back. And so this is amazing to me, but this is a group. And again, Senator Cochran, you got to wonder about the fact that he even did this. I mean, if he understood the implications of doing this, of allowing the Clintonites to raise money for him, and how that's going to look if it gets out, and it's going to get out. So it seems to me it's just kind of from a political standpoint, kind of an error in judgment on Senator Cochran's part. I understand you need money to run campaigns and you want to go where the money is, but this strikes me as sort of a politically inept move on Senator Cochran's part. And here's the piece. According to Politico, a group headed by John Podesta is hosting a fundraiser in Washington, D.C. for Thad Cochran. It's supposed to take place this morning. Downtowners are hosting a breakfast fundraiser for Senator Thad Cochran at the offices of the Podesta Group. It's a March 4 fundraiser. That's today. What happened this morning will cost $2,000 for PACs and $1,000 for individuals. Now, here is Podesta's bio. Podesta served as White House Chief of Staff under Bill Clinton, as well as advisors to some of the biggest Democrats on the Hill. He founded and chaired the Center for American Progress, which is an uber left-wing think tank, and he's in charge of the Podesta Group. This is a lobbying firm for liberals, for big business, and for environmentalism. They're all about global warming and environmentalism. And right now, he is serving as a senior counselor to President Obama. And yet Senator Cochran is going to them to help him with his campaign. That, I think, is fairly revealing if you're from Mississippi and looking for a conservative standard bearer. Now, speaking of global warming, satellite stuff, I won't have time to go into the details, but satellite data indicates that there has been no global warming now for 17 years and 6 months. That's 210 months, 17 years and 6 months, no global warming. Nada, zip, zilch, zippo. Not a scintilla of global warming in 17 years and 6 months, despite the fact that we continue to belch CO2 into the atmosphere every time we take a breath. Every time we exhale, what do we exhale? We exhale CO2. That's a piece by Lord Monckton looking at satellite data. And, we're the science people. Do not let these people lie to you and try to convince you that we who are skeptical about anthropogenic global warming, that we're the anti-science people. They are the anti-science people. The people that still believe in global warming, they're the ones that are in complete denial about the scientific truth. Lord Monckton says, look, he's got the graph right there on his website. It's up to date. It's information from the data from the remote sensing systems, the RSS. It's one of the two satellite-based data sets that's used to assess and measure global temperatures. The satellite data sets are based on measurements made by the most accurate thermometers available, platinum resistance thermometers. I have absolutely no idea what that means. but it sounds impressive and it sounds scientific because it is. These are the most sophisticated temperature measuring devices known to man, platinum resistance thermometers. So the information, the data, in other words, is absolutely accurate. They not only measure temperatures at various altitudes above the Earth's surface via microwave sounding units, but also constantly calibrate themselves by measuring the known temperature of the cosmic background radiation, which is 1% of the freezing point of water, or just 2.73 degrees above absolute zero. There will be a test. So it's an accurate graph. No global warming, 17 years and 6 months. So again, I've said it before, but this means there is no child living anywhere on planet Earth who has experienced global warming. Not one. Not one child anywhere in the world who has experienced global warming. Things are so bad, there's this meteorologist by the name of Jeff Masters. He's out there saying, well, there are different kinds of cold. Are you ready for this? I mean, you talk about scientific denial. I mean, this is scientific denial on growth hormones. This guy says you've got to learn to distinguish between the different kinds of cold. Now, cold is cold. Cold is cold. If it's 27 degrees, you don't care whether it's natural cold or whether it's global cooling cold or whether it's global warming cold. It's just cold. But this guy says we've got to learn to distinguish. This is a quote from Jeff Masters. He's the director of meteorology at the Weather Underground. Listen to this absurd lunacy. It's important that we learn to distinguish between natural cold, global cooling cold, and global warming cold. So there's three different kinds of colds. We got to learn how to tell the difference between them. He doesn't tell us how exactly we are supposed to do that. Clip number 4. This is Warren Buffett. This is the what do they call him, of Omaha? The Wizard of Omaha, or the Oracle of Omaha. This guy knows everything about finances, everything about stocks. He's one of the richest men in the world. So he's being asked about climate change because one of the things he deals with is in companies that sell catastrophic weather insurance, like for hurricanes and tornadoes. So he's got a vested interest on what's going on with global cooling or global warming and extreme weather events. Here's clip number 1, clip 4.
It's interesting. I think the public has the impression that because there's been so much talk about climate, that events of the last 10 years from an insured standpoint in climate have been unusual. The answer is they haven't. I mean, it hasn't been true so far, Joe.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
I mean, you know.
I know. I know.
We always think it's cold. We always think it's cold almost, but it was cold almost 50 years ago.
The only thing that
we've been remarkably free of hurricanes in the United States in the last 5 years.
Remarkably free of hurricanes. Remember, this is supposed to be one of the consequences of global warming, all of these catastrophic extreme weather events. Now, here is the second clip, clip 5. It includes part of what you heard, but there was a part that he also said I wanted to be sure we grab. Let's listen to this.
I think the public has the impression that because there's been so much talk about climate, that events of the last 10 years from an insured standpoint in climate have been unusual. The answer is they haven't. I mean, you read about these events, but you were reading about events 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, and we've been remarkably free of hurricanes in the United States in the last 5 years. So if you were writing hurricane insurance, it's been all profit.
So Warren Buffett says, look, we are making bank. I mean, what he's saying is these global warming alarmists, they are making us money like you would not believe, hand over fist, because they're out there stirring up all of these fears about global warming, all of these hurricanes, all of these tornadoes going to wipe out civilization as we know it. So people are out there, Warren Buffett says, buying all of this hurricane insurance. We are making bank, money hand over fist. Last clip. Let's grab clip number 13 if we can, Rob. This is Brian Stelter on CNN, and he's talking here in this clip about the global warming, and listen to what he says.
Let's begin with an important journalistic statement, and it's something I mentioned in the last segment. Some stories don't have two sides. Some stories are simply true. There's no necessity to give equal time to the quote-unquote other side. One of these is climate change. Depending on which study or which expert you consult, Between 95 and 97% of scientists agree that climate change is happening now, that it's damaging the planet, and that it's man-made. That seems pretty definitive, right? So why does television news too often feel compelled to stage debates between those who represent the 97% and those who represent the fringe? Case in point is last week's Meet the Press. David Gregory interviewed Bill Nye the Science Guy, who, by the way, is not technically a scientist, and Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn. She's a conservative climate skeptic with no particular expertise in this subject. Whatever Meet the Press was trying to accomplish, I don't think they did it.
So Brian Stelter saying, look, when it comes to global warming, there are not two sides in this debate. That's why we don't bring on any skeptics of global warming on this program, because as far as we're concerned, the issue is settled. Well, I actually agree with Brian Stelter that on this issue, there aren't two sides. There is one side, and that is the side that says there has been no global warming for 17 years and 6 months. Now, if people want to go ahead and believe that, if they want to go ahead and believe the global warming hystericists, that man-caused global warming is going to destroy the planet, it's going to cause tornadoes, it's going to cause hurricanes, then by all means go out and pay huge premiums for hurricane insurance and make Warren Buffett even richer than he already is. Well, here's your blessing for the rest of your day, the rest of this week from Isaiah 55. May you go out in joy and be led forth in peace. Do not forget to bow low before God, stand tall before man, stand in the gap, and never forget, as the Romaiki Homeschooling Family shows, we are fighting a winnable war. God bless you. See you tomorrow.